Part 4 is another vital part. If you haven't already, I strongly suggest start at Part 1, where I cover the roster, followed by Part 2, where I discuss gameplay and customization. Part 3 covered stages, items, and multiplayer game modes. In this chapter, I can discuss what I would include as part of all the single-player offerings. In my previous video, there is something I forgot to mention, that being, Special Smash is one of the game modes in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate that wouldn't be returning. The reason being is that it's not all that essential. It was certainly a nice little novelty in Melee, but it's since worn out its welcome at this point. Games and more will be rebranded as single-player modes. In other words, these are modes that don't involve any multiplayer play. First and foremost, I want to address that Smash Bros. Will get a tutorial mode. What a novel concept, right? So this tutorial mode will allow players to learn the ins and outs of specific characters as they play. No Sakurai front and center. No giving away everything for free before you even put down your money. You'll simply learn by playing. These tutorials will cover how these characters perform, how they defend, how they recover, and other interesting tidbits. So for instance, if you want to learn how to use Paper Mario competitively, you can learn a few useful tactics before first jumping into an online mode without a game plan. And of course, you can also freely wallop an opponent of your choosing in training mode. Classic mode gets an interesting twist this time around. Each round will have 10 stages, and this includes 2 bonus stages. Each character will always have a rival opponent that they'll face in the very last battle. So for Ryu, the character he will fight in the last battle will always be the cause. Each of the battles in Classic mode will have stamina rules, best of 3. With the exception of the last opponent, the opponents you'll face will be random. Stages 1 and 2 will be one-on-one battles with items. Stages 4 and 5 will be one-on-one battles without items. Stages 7, 8, and 9 will be considered endurance battles, in which you'll fight 2, 3, and 4 opponents, respectively, at the same time. Stage 3 will be a bonus stage known as the Smash Wheel. This will be a large wheel that will bounce around like a rubber tire. This wheel will feature red panels all around it. The objective is to hit all panels, to turn them green as quickly as possible. The faster you clear this, the greater the rewards will be. Stage 6 will be the Home Run Contest. Home Run Contest will also be among the single-player offering, but the version found in Classic mode will also come with a reward depending on the distance you end up with. I know I'm talking about rewards a lot, but rest assured, I will discuss unlockables and much more in the final episode. But that's not all. Rather than a trophy, however, after clearing Classic mode with each character, you'll get special intro and ending screens that tell an original story, much like what you find in the traditional fighting game. Stage Builder makes its return. You can also create break the target stages. Create the stage, choose whether you want to add 10, 20, or 30 targets. Add paths to each target including speed and direction. You can add rules for what kinds of characters are eligible for each stage. You can also opt to make the stage just for one character in particular, like Pikachu. From there, you can upload the stages for others to play, while having leaderboards for each based on the time it takes to complete. My Fighter mode is also back, but it will be integrated into a new mode dedicated to player customization. So, here you'll be able to choose your preset, your special moves and outfits. You'll find out more in the next episode, though. Mob Smash will be a game mode that won't return. Much like Special Smash, it's a novelty that's worn out its welcome, I feel, and see that the other editions made well make up for it. Now for the story mode. And it's actually something that I wanted to have since 2015. And that would be an adventure mode with a Metroidvania-style map. I still think it's a great idea for a game like this. The gameplay would really mesh in well, and the game itself already has a plethora of content that you can unlock with such a mode like this. Super Smash Bros. Brawl had linear stages, and I felt that was on the right track to what a single-player mode in a fighting game could be like. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate had a large overworld map, but they took several steps back, I feel. Now, an interconnected map isn't something seen before in a Smash Bros. Game, but now it's becoming more common in gaming. Indie studios are doing them on a constant basis, so I don't see how you can't hire the people to make it happen. Now Sakurai and storytelling go together like oil and water. Both his attempts at a story were pretty much similar. A giant celestial being has an army of enemies. Something turns the roster into a vegetative state. I get that it's not easy to make a storyline when you work with characters from different worlds without dialogue. So here's what I propose for a plot. The baddest villains in gaming history assemble to merge the realms, so to speak. They agree to form an alliance so they have a power so great they can rule over just one land. The villains include Bowser, King K. Rool, Ganondorf, Ridley, King DDD, Why Not, Wolf, The Cause, and even non-playable characters like Sephiroth, M. Bison, Eggman, and Dracula. They won't go by a particular name, they won't have an emblem, silly gimmick or tacky mothership. They're essentially going to be just a collective of villains that will get in your way. I guess at this point, I have to establish which new characters will be available at launch and available as DLC, considering that determines which characters will appear in this mode. So on disc, I have Waluigi, Paper Mario, Tom Nook, the new Fire Emblem character, Spring Man, Noah, Ryu Hayabusa, and Leon. So these characters will be part of this adventure. Then for DLC, I have Impa, the new Pokemon, Medusa, Fighter Hayabusa, the new IP, Lara, and Scorpion. Determining who would be DLC and who would be on the base roster was a hard decision, especially when it came to the third-party characters. While Ryu Hayabusa has a long, vast history in gaming, he was the weakest of the three in terms of marketability, so it was quite easy to put him in the base roster. At the same time, it wasn't hard to put Lara in as DLC because, well, she's the entire Tomb Raider IP basically. Omitting her from the story mode wouldn't be that soul-crushing. Then that just leaves Scorpion and Leon, and only one of them get to be part of story mode canonically. On one hand, Scorpion means you can include Shao Kahn as a villain and use other Mortal Kombat references in story mode. The caveat is that there is already a third-party ninja the I've already established going to be on the base roster. With Leon being part of the base roster, story mode could instead have Wesker as a villain. So as much as I'd like to fight a boss like Goro, we could have a boss instead like Nemesis or a similar character from the Resident Evil franchise. And I also find Resident Evil to be more unique in comparison to the other series, whereas Mortal Kombat will be yet another fighting game IP, along with Street Fighter, Tekken and SNK. So yeah, Leon and Ryu, base roster. Lara and Scorpion, DLC. At some point in story mode, you will be able to get all the DLC characters purchased as playable. Back to the story then. So, this band of baddies has managed to condense the entire universe down into a small black cube. Because it's easier to control one world together than it is to try to control their own worlds by themselves. And everything seems out of place. So how does this story begin? A black hole emerges in the middle of a Mario Kart race. This is just one of various black holes throughout the universe, and the bad guys are all watching them fill energy into the cube-like sand into an Hurgless. Just then, Wario and Waluigi offer up their services to the rest of the villains. For their trouble, they get tossed outside of the black hole, back into the ruined Mario universe. Then you get a subtitle that appears that says, Chapter 1. Waluigi. Waluigi looks for a way into the closing black hole. Along the way, you'll encounter an invasion of fuzzies. When you defeat the colony, Rosalina is surprisingly there and helps you launch yourself inside the black hole before it closes. And thus, your journey through the spacious map begins. You start with Waluigi and Wario as your first two playable characters. One of the reasons why you start out with these two is because neither of them can run fast, wall jump, climb, or squeeze through small openings. So many platforms and secret areas will be inaccessible when you start out. And it won't be for a while until you come across characters that are able to access these areas with these special abilities. There are certain characters you unlock when you get to a new chapter, and for the rest of them, you have to find and defeat them in a one-on-one battle. There are some areas throughout the map that can only be accessible to a certain number of characters based on their abilities. So if you have a character that can climb, they'll be able to access hidden areas you can only reach by climbing. Same with flying. Maybe you'd think of flying off into an abyss that you otherwise would think is just nothing but death and come across a secret area. And there are certain areas where you can only access with one specific character. So for instance, if you play as Pac-Man and climb, munch, up a certain wall, it will lead you to a secret Pac-Man area that no other character can access, even the other climbers. Even as you think you might be able to scale a wall with Link, the game won't allow you, so oftentimes, you'll just assume that the wall is unscalable. But this is just so that you don't uncover everything inside the area right away as you first explore it. The player will visit various environments throughout the Nintendo universe. These won't be specific locations like Lost Woods or Green Hill Zone, but any Nintendo gamer will be able to distinguish which series the environment belongs to by looking at it. Enemies will also appear in these regions depending on the game series. So if you're in a Ring Fit Adventure region, expect to see enemies like mollusks and hoplins. NPCs will be a big part of story mode. They will come in the form of quests that you need to complete in order to receive an award or proceed onwards in a portion of the map. The Duck Hunt dog will be one of the characters. You'll be challenged to evade the Duck Hunt shooter's shots, and being successful will get you a significant reward. And odds are, you may not have a character agile enough to beat this challenge when you first encounter it. Other Cut Smash Bros. Characters will also be NPCs, and there will be many more such as Baby Mario, the President, Snorlax, and Vega. Bosses will also be part of story mode, and you can either encounter them on the map, or they will be a part of story mode cutscenes that progress the story along. These bosses include Dynablade, Phantom Ganon, Dr. Eggman, and Bashmaster, among others. Sometimes, you'll need to play as certain characters to attain certain happenings, or have certain enemies appear. For instance, if you play as Snake in a certain sci-fi related area, Grey Fox will appear, and you can battle him. Defeating these certain bosses or enemies, or collecting key items from them can also help complete certain quests from NPCs. With that in mind, story mode will require a lot of backtracking. Puzzles will also be a feature in story mode. Aside from fighting enemies, you'll be tasked with memory and logic-based challenges in order to proceed to new areas or collect rewards. Sometimes, you will require a certain character with the right speed, power, or certain projectile attacks to complete the puzzle. So, how does health work? Seeing that Super Smash Bros. Is historically known for percentiles and ring outs. Though for story mode, you'll adopt a heart system. If you get hit 3 times, your character is KO'd. The reason I went with the heart system is to ramp up the difficulty so that battles aren't too easy. When your character is KO'd, he or she will need to be resurrected with a life orb. There will be a limited number of these orbs throughout one playthrough, so you cannot buy them. You'll get something special when you beat story mode with all characters in your party, and you'll miss out on this reward if even one character is missing. Losing all of your characters might never be a concern, but what happens if you do lose all the characters available to you? Let's say you lost both Wario and Waluigi early on, and didn't have anybody left on your roster, and didn't have any life orbs to spare? Well, you can use save crystals from a checkpoint, and that would allow you to load your progress before you lost your last character. What are save crystals? You simply save your progress, but the catch is that the crystal goes away once you use it. There will be a fixed number of save crystals throughout the map. There even might be 2 or more in the exact same area. The catch is, you really need to think about using them after you've made a great deal of progress, rather than use them the moment you see them. This means you have to save sparingly, and if you've lost some characters along the way, odds are there are some players that don't want to bother reverting back to a save crystal to retrieve a lost character if it means losing a lot of progress. So there is a big benefit, yet also a big detriment to the system. This was the save system used in the console versions of Tomb Raider 1. Now that we're on the topic of the character roster again, I might as well talk about how the characters are meant to be unlocked. Every single fighter will be locked, even Mario and the original cast. However, you simply unlock each character by playing through their character-specific tutorial. That means when you play for the first time, you can choose the character you want, learn that character with the tutorial, and then proceed to playing with that character in online or Smash modes. In terms of multiplayer modes, the roster will be fully unlocked to CPUs, but not to players. Meaning if you still want to fight against certain characters, or let CPUs fight one another, you can do that without restriction. To unlock the whole roster, you simply need to play through all the tutorials. And I feel that is a much smaller ask compared to what they tried to do in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. This wasn't a very long video, but still important for all the single-player offerings to stand out by themselves nonetheless. You can pretty much guess what's left. I'll see you then.